Hello people, welcome back to The Struggle, where we dive deep into the most effective ideas, stories, theories and strategies for overcoming life's struggles. To struggle is to make forceful efforts to break free from restriction, and together we'll figure out how you're restricted and explore how you can struggle to break free, find meaning and grow through whatever adversity you're going through. This is episode 49, and this week I want to explore the nature of reality and how we can become more fulfilled through the ancient strategy of balance. But before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by the Struggle newsletter. This is a fortnightly newsletter that complements the podcast nicely, in which I send out every other Sunday a short article concerning the art of embracing struggle. We are all restricted in some way, and we could all do with struggling to break free from whatever restricts us. The struggle is different for everyone, but I can assure you the Struggle newsletter and this podcast will help you discover what it is that is restricting you and how you can best struggle to break free from that restriction. If you're finding it difficult to be more productive, to be healthy, to achieve your goals, perhaps you're chasing the wrong thing. Because a lot of us believe that we should be aiming for happiness. But this is an unwise pursuit, because happiness comes and goes without any control from us. However, there is a way to be more fulfilled with life, and that is to embrace the struggle. Maybe it's exercising for you, maybe it's being healthy, maybe it's having uncomfortable conversations, maybe it's taking a career risk, maybe it's discovering who you are, paying attention to your feelings, or to be autonomous. And that's why I created a newsletter, to help you discover where you could be struggling more and where you could become more fulfilled. Along with the article, I also provide tips, strategies and recommendations such as podcasts, movies, music and recipes to help along the way. So to sign up completely for free, go to gregorthomson.com, the link will be in the show notes, confirm your subscription, and then check your spam folder for your welcome newsletter, and then add me to your contacts to continue to receive it in your inbox for free. And that's it. You're on your way to productively struggling more and being more healthy, motivated and fulfilled. Now, let's get on with the struggle. We all, in some sense, forge our own realities. Some keep their realities comfortable, local, predictable. Others explore beyond the confines of comfort, creating vast, global and unpredictable realities. Some maintain realities that are ordered, while others inhabit chaos. And some are somewhere in the middle. Those who can explore while keeping their feet planted in order are rare. It's those who can challenge themselves while maintaining balance in their realities that we should look up to. It's those who can walk that incredibly tight line between chaos and order, the known and the unknown, and comfort and discomfort. It's these people who will live fulfilling lives of balance. We've known that balance is the optimal mode of being for centuries. It's the yin-yang symbol. It's the Flammarion Engraving. This is one of my favourite images. Now, I'll put a link in the show notes for anyone listening who wants to see the Flammarion Engraving, but as I said, it's one of my favourite images, and it perfectly encapsulates the idea of balance. In the image, a pilgrim, dressed in a long robe and carrying a walking stick, reaches the edge of the flat earth where it meets the firmament. Kneeling, he passes his head, shoulders, arm and stick through an opening in the sky, which is adorned with stars, the sun and the moon. Beyond the sky, he discovers a wondrous realm of swirling clouds, fires and suns. Among the cosmic elements is a wheel within a wheel, reminiscent of the vision described by the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel. The image has been used to symbolize our scientific quest for knowledge, while others have used it to describe a psychedelic experience. House Nostromo beautifully describes the image by saying, "We all seek the shimmering chaos that lies beyond the veil. But that impossible space pierces through everywhere. Pools of red light in deep winter, the smell of awakening spring in the forest, the river gliding over moss, the tall grass in the wind, the mountain, the pine cone. It is in these places where the day shifts for a moment about us worn pilgrims. our crowded thoughts ushered away, and we are left kneeling at some unseen altar, hands outstretched, ready to see. This description points to the fact that the chaotic beauty we all seek lies within the beauty of nature. However, it also seems to point to the fact that we all seek exploration. We all seek to discover the unknown. But we can go too far in this endeavour. If we leap through the veil, unbalanced and unsteady, we might find ourselves uncontrollably floating through space. And on the other hand, if we keep our whole bodies on this side of the veil, we will fail to see and explore the beauty of the unknown on the other side. This image, as Jordan Peterson seems to suggest, represents the optimal mode of being. It's another representation similar to the yin-yang symbol from Chinese philosophy, which represents the duality and interdependence of opposing forces. The yin, traditionally associated with chaos, the feminine, darkness, and the unknown, and the yang, traditionally associated with order, masculine, light, and the known. Each dot on each side of the line represents the fact that both the known and the unknown are in constant flux and that each exists within the other. And the line in between represents that optimal mode of being. It's the tight line that we ought to balance, balancing the known and the unknown. And therefore, the Flammarion engraving showcases this same idea because the pilgrim is seen reaching his hand through the veil towards space or the unknown whilst keeping his feet planted within the known world. This is where we should seek to be. We must embrace change and the unknown whilst keeping our houses in order. Some are so terrified of change that they remain within what they know on this side of the veil. However, it is impossible to stay on this side forever, no matter how hard you try, because the veil can move and force you into the unknown. This occurs throughout life when we experience death, trauma, or sudden dramatic change. Therefore, if we keep to this side of the veil, we will have no experience and no preparation for when we are forced into the unknown. It's better to voluntarily move into the unknown rather than be forced to. We will be less prepared and weak when the pains of the world inevitably crop up. On the flip side of this, those who jump with both feet through the veil towards the unknown at the expense of what they know may achieve great things, but often at the cost of everything else. These people may have turbulent love lives, disordered homes, poor relationships, or poor mental health. Others who live within the unknown world may find themselves suffering from addiction because they can't order their worlds properly. And so the answer, of course, is balance. We must find ways to reach through towards the chaotic unknown, aim high and venture outwards, whilst keeping our feet planted firmly within the ordered known, being grateful for what we have, and forging meaningful connections here on Earth. The truth is we're not nearly as fulfilled in our little realities as we would be if we ventured beyond what's comfortable into the grand reality of the unknown world. And we won't find meaning and love if we stray too far towards the unknown. We might get lost out there. Now, this suggestion for being is not unique. We see it throughout our cultures right up to the present day. So I'm going to take a story and idea that's centuries old to show that its wisdom is immortal, along with a modern story to show that its story is repeated through time. The modern story, inevitably, is The Hobbit, and the old story is that of Adam and Eve. Now, I've written and spoken about both of these stories perhaps ad nauseum, but it's because they symbolize everything I've spoken about so succinctly due to their useful themes and their metaphors and imagery. In the story of The Hobbit, Bilbo is asked by 13 dwarves to help them journey to Erebor to retrieve a precious jewel guarded by the dragon Smaug and to free their home. Bilbo, who lives a quiet and comfortable life in his little hobbit hole within the Shire, declines this offer and intends to return to this quiet and comfortable life. After the dwarves sleep in Bilbo's hobbit hole, they leave and set out on their adventure without their hobbit thief. Bilbo awakens to the familiar sights and sounds of his hobbit hole. The birds singing a lovely song, the smell of freshly cut grass, and the warmth of his home. But unfortunately, he does not feel the same as he did a few days ago. He's no longer content. His eyes have been opened to the chaos of the unknown world. just as Adam and Eve's eyes were open to the reality of the world via the forbidden fruit. The reality of Bilbo's world was a shield. The Shire acted as a warm blanket, shielding Bilbo from the true reality of the unknown world right outside the Shire. Just as God created the Garden of Eden to shield Adam and Eve from the true reality of the world, Eden translating to walled garden or a place of pristine or abundant natural beauty. So that means that Adam and Eve and Bilbo were all contained within a pristine and natural beauty. Now the similarities don't stop there as well. Bilbo's eyes are opened by the existence of a reptile in Smaug, and Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit at the words of the snake, another reptile. Both discover the horrors and chaos of the world in its truest form. It's said that Adam and Eve were the first humans to become self-conscious and self-aware. They both walked the garden naked within the world of the known, a paradise without the knowledge of threat or chaos. Then their eyes were opened to their vulnerability after eating the forbidden fruit, and they immediately covered themselves. The world, they discovered, has many threats and dangers and many unknowns, so they must now work and sacrifice to keep those dangers at bay and deal with the burden of continually attempting to balance themselves between the known and the unknown. So Bilbo has now become aware of the true nature of the world, and he sees this unknown adventure that has been offered to him. He no longer feels the same as he did when he was oblivious to that. So it seems that knowledge produces action and knowledge enlightens, but it's not always a positive enlightenment. If Bilbo had stayed in his hobbit hole, ignoring the call to adventure, he would have continued living within the confines of what's comfortable and predictable, but he'd be punished with the persistent regret of what could have been. He'd regret not reaching through the veil towards the unknown. Whereas those who accept that the world itself is chaotic and full of unknowns, and it's those who embrace this fact and struggle through it that are rewarded with goals, in Bilbo's case, and enlightenment and fulfillment in our case. Now, we are all restricted in some way. We're all restricted and we're all being held back from achieving balance. Some are either too ordered and some are either too chaotic. Some are too much within the known, what's predictable and what's certain, and some are too far towards the unpredictable and what's uncertain. Some are restricted by their pasts, their childhoods, their upbringing, their treatment at school, and these pasts seem to show up in how we're restricted in adulthood. They can show up in addictions or phobias or workaholism, or they can show up in a complete aversion to the unknown or a complete aversion to the known. This is our unconscious attempting to shield us from the pain that we felt in our past. Some people fear the unknown to such an extent that they want to keep their realities extremely ordered so that they can safely predict the future most of the time. On the extreme end of this are those who struggle to even leave the house, or those who live within strict routines, plans, schedules, and to-do lists. Now, the latter is more socially celebrated because it can lead to achievement, but it can also be dangerous. On the flip side of this, there are those who leap into the unknown because they haven't experienced any order in their past, or they distract themselves with chaotic behaviors like drugs, drinking, hookups, materialism, and more, without any order or safety. Or there are those who focus so much on achieving one thing that they fail to order the rest of their lives, and they end up divorced or addicted or depressed or all three. We handle whatever restricts us unconsciously in problematic ways, either by attempting to order our world, refusing to step into the unknown, or by living within the unknown world, floating about chaotically without any control or safety. The good news is we can reorder and rebalance our worlds by becoming aware of what restricts us, bringing that restriction into the conscious, and struggling to break free from that restriction. So it's time to figure out what is restricting you. How are you handling that restriction problematically? How are you handling it unconsciously? And it's time to figure out how we can rebalance our worlds and realities so that we can reach through the veil towards the unknown and chaotic whilst keeping our feet safely planted within the known and ordered. So there you have it. There's the problem the majority of us face. It's problems of imbalance. We're either too much in the known, with an aversion to the unknown, wanting a predictable world, a certain world, an ordered world that is impossible, or we live within the unknown, floating about in space uncontrollably and chaotically without any order or predictability. We need to find a way to achieve that balance in between the two. We need to find a way to reach through the veil whilst keeping our feet planted in order. So now that I've discussed the problem, stay tuned for next week when I'm going to discuss some applicable strategies that you can utilize in your life to accomplish this balance effectively. But for now, the answer lies in the struggle. So keep on struggling. Hi guys, just a few more things before you take off. Firstly, thank you so much for watching. It genuinely means a lot to see people watching and liking the content. Second, if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe to the channel. That's the best way you can support the podcast. As you can probably tell, I don't have a team behind me helping with recording or editing the podcast, and I certainly don't have a lot of fancy equipment, so any help or support is greatly appreciated because it will help the podcast grow and get better. And finally, keep on struggling.